Are you feeling stuck in a style rut since becoming a parent? My friends, it is not just you. I am right there with you. And today we have a special guest, Heather Riggs, who's a very successful image consultant. And she's going to help us uncover how developing our signature style can not only make us feel great, but also impact our confidence and self image. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest, Heather Riggs, here with us, and we're so excited, Heather, to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Just a quick background for Heather. She is the founder of Her Style LLC, and she's the host of the top 10 fashion and beauty show, Her Style podcast. As a 17-year certified image consultant and color specialist, Heather empowers ambitious women to show up and get dressed every day with confidence. This is not something I've spoken to yet before on the podcast, and I am so excited to pick your brain. So thank you for coming on with your expertise. And do you mind telling us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a wife we're coming up on our 17-year wedding anniversary as well this year. And we have a 6-year-old son named Gray. He just started kindergarten this year. So I've been busy mom mode. But of course, one of my big focuses is running my business, which I decided to take online after having my son. As moms, a lot of times it's like we want the flexibility of being able to just work from home and be available for our kids. So that's been a huge blessing. And the work that I get to do does not feel like work most days. I just have fun getting to help women play dress up and really feel their best and be intentional about how they shop and what they buy so that they can feel their best every day and do it ideally within their budget and buying a whole lot less than they might think they need coming into the process.
I just love that. When it comes to style, that is something that I don't know a lot about. And for those of you that are watching, you can just see how beautiful and put together Heather is. And I have often thought about this. How did you get started in this? And did you care about this from the beginning? Like, is this something that just came naturally to you? Or tell me a little bit about how you got into it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're so kind. Thank you for saying that. So I've always loved fashion since the time I was a little girl. I grew up in the 80s. So I loved all things fashion, like fashion plates and paper dolls, all of the things. When I was a kid, and
Yeah.
my mom always said I had champagne taste on a beer budget. I cannot tell you the number of times I would pester her to buy me certain things that wasn't within the realm of possibility for us as a family. But anyway, I loved style and putting outfits together. And I always knew I wanted to go into fashion. I originally thought I was going to be a costume designer for film. That was something that really appealed to me in my late teens, early 20s. But I realized very quickly that to be a costume designer, you have to know how to sew. And I have zero sewing skills. I really struggled with those classes in college. So I decided to change my major and I ended up pursuing fashion design and merchandising. And I didn't really want to be a buyer for a retail store, which was the career path of most of the women I went to school with. But I started working in personal shopping during my college years. And I really loved helping women one on one with getting dressed, putting outfits together, and just seeing their confidence transform and finding the right pieces that work to flatter their bodies and bring out their personal coloring and all of that. And my mom was actually the one who told me that image consulting was a career. She read an interview in one of her magazines with an image consultant. She was like, Heather, this sounds right up your alley. I think you should consider doing this for your career. And she was right. So I expanded my education after I graduated college and achieved a couple of image consulting and color specialist certifications. And the rest is history.
That's amazing. So you're doing what you love, and you've been doing it now for how long? Did you say 17 years?
17 years. Yeah. Out of
Mhm.
college, this was my career path. Then I did work in personal shopping for a while and started working with clients one on one on the side and had some other jobs like right out of school and doing this. But yeah, this is my heart and soul. And after my son was born, like I said, I decided I really wanted to do this 100% online, which has been so cool because I've been able to really transition all of my services to a virtual format. And I've been able to work with women all over the world, which has been really the most rewarding thing.
That's one of the things that I love about podcasting, about having my own business, even therapy, I do all online, and it's so nice. The flexibility for a family. And I'm sure that speaks to a lot of listeners too. When it comes to your expertise, I'm curious about what's one of the most common struggles among busy parents when it comes to style or confidence. And yeah, can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. I think, and you talk about this on your show, I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in our kids
Mm.
and lose sight of who we are a little bit in that process. And I know you had a recent episode on this at the time we're recording this. With the work that I do, I see a lot of women in particular really struggle to get dressed and show up with confidence because they haven't adapted their wardrobes to meet the demands and the evolved tastes that come with their current lifestyle changes. Once you become a mom or a parent, I feel like so much of your world changes. And if you're not aligning your wardrobe with those changes, you're going to inevitably find a mismatch. A lot of times I just see women in particular, because that's who I work with primarily. So I don't mean to isolate the men, which this can also happen to. You might just find yourself in a wardrobe if you've been ignoring your closet, what you're putting together for so long. And one day you're like, wow, nothing's really working for me for the needs that I have in my life, for what's going on in my week to week schedule. It's so hard to get dressed for the activities that I have. And I've forgotten who I am as a person. And it's like you need to take that time out and just reestablish what you want your style to look and feel like in this new season of your life. And I also think, especially in the age that we're in right now with social media, it's increasingly hard to stay out of comparison mode. We have so much information coming at us, and we're seeing everybody's picture perfect lives on social media. And we hear a lot of what we should be doing as parents and what we should be wearing as moms. And it can just feel like we don't measure up to some of those unrealistic expectations that we're seeing in society now. So I think it's just really hard, like having so much information and the bar just continuing to be raised on the demands that we put on ourselves too.
Absolutely. I love how you talked about like comparison mode. It's so hard to stay out of that with social media. I actually don't really love social media. I feel like it can be like a time waster for sure. But I want to speak actually a little bit more to the getting stuck in a rut, because you're right. As a parent, 100%. And I often find myself, even as a therapist, in those shoulds. Oh, I should care a little more about my appearance. Whereas sometimes I'm on the other side of the man, I'm almost like a little bit proud that I don't care about appearance, or I I do a little bit, but I don't put much effort or
You
energy
look
into it.
beautiful.
Ugh, I
You
appreciate
you
that.
might care a little bit, but I know what you're
Yeah.
saying. That
But there is
balancing
like
act.
there's definitely is, and especially if you are professional, some of our listeners are stay-at-home moms or different things, but can you help me figure out that balance? Because like there's that desire for many of us to step it up a little bit with our appearance, but then we also don't want to get in that place where we care too much, where we're dumping too much time or energy or resources into it. Like, how do you find that sweet spot? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. And I think the first thing is to recognize that when it comes to your personal style and how you show up, number one, you want to feel like yourself when you're going about your day. And style really does play a maybe not the most important role, but it does impact. You hear the expression like look good, feel good. And I think there is so much truth to that when you just take even an extra 5 minutes in the morning to do a quick hair and makeup routine or to really think a little more consciously about the clothes that you're putting on. I just had a client in my program comment this week that she was about to just throw a sweater on over her gym clothes and get to work for the day. And she stopped for a minute and she's like, it would actually only take me 2 more seconds to get dressed. And she put on a little satin slip skirt and the same sweater, and she just looked amazing. And she felt so much more confident and was able to move through her workday a little bit more powerfully because she really showed up in that boss mode versus just rolling right into it from the gym. So sometimes just that mental reset of what you're getting ready for can make such a difference how you go about those different activities. And I think, especially for the business owners in your audience who are listening, it's really important to think about the fact that like we talked about, even with social media, people are making snap judgments about us, often
Mhm.
unconsciously, but we're just having so much information coming. They used to say it takes 7 seconds to make a first impression, but newer research shows it takes a tenth of a second to make an
Oh, wow.
impression on someone. And so your personal style and the way that you're showing up really does give you an opportunity to communicate either an accurate story about who you are or maybe an inaccurate story about who you are. So my goal is to help you communicate who you are through the way in which you're presenting yourself from the visual sense, because oftentimes that's the only opportunity you have to make an impression. Often people will have the opportunity to get to know you, especially if you're presenting information on a podcast or if you're building rapport with your potential clients. But sometimes people might just be turned off by how you're showing up. So it's really important to consider it, but of course, not make it the most important thing, because who you are on the inside obviously matters the most. And hopefully you'll
Yeah.
have the opportunity to show that too.
And you are right. I think that is a big, important thing to remember. That tenth of a second, although I had no idea it was that quick, really does
Yeah.
matter. But sometimes I just want to resist that and be like, no, I don't care. I, I'm smiling right now. You don't know this, but I'm going to be really raw and vulnerable for a second. But I go back and forth to the gym. Like in the morning, I go, and then in the afternoon, I take my son. So like it just to help him out. So I'm back and forth into gym clothes, and I get so tired of changing that I often do like a half outfit pretty much all the time. Nobody knows you're on a computer, but
Right.
I'm half gym clothes and half professional. I feel like I'm half in, half out, maybe even less than that.
You really only need to get dressed from the waist up. Yeah. And you know what? The funny thing is, you don't even have to be in fancy clothes. You can wear comfortable clothes, but even just taking the extra 30 seconds to put on some jewelry just to finish the look, or to make sure that you're choosing comfortable lounge pieces in your best colors, like all of those little decisions can make such a big overall impact. And it really doesn't take that much more time to do it. It's just having the awareness to do it and thinking about how it makes you feel, and of course the way that you're presenting yourself to others. But to your point before, it is really a fine line between not getting too wrapped up in that, which we see a lot too. And so just giving yourself some of those check-in points. I know you talk so much on your show too about having that awareness and that intentionality, and just asking yourself, how did I spend the majority of my time this week? Where is my energy going? Where are my finances going? And having some of those honest conversations with yourself, just to make sure that you're not getting too deep in the superficial aspects of life, because again, this is important, but it's not the most important thing. You always want to put your goals and priorities as an individual and as a family first, and making sure that what you're doing is aligning with that.
I love how you speak to that. It's not the all or nothing, but it's something that can really boost your confidence and set that tone for, okay, how is it that people are going to view me? Are they going to see me as a professional? All of that. And that's beautiful. I completely agree with that. And it helps me understand, okay, maybe I can lean in a little bit more, especially that story that you mentioned. She just put on a little skirt and that made her feel so much better. Like it doesn't have to be these huge changes. Like it could be a 5-minute thing. I refused to do my hair, for example, for the longest time. And then I was like, okay, this really doesn't actually take that long. Like most of these things take less than 5 minutes, but I'm still learning about that a little bit.
My hair does take a long time to do, what I have to blow dry and style it, but I just have a couple quick, easy 30-second put your hair up in a little clip or do a low bun. And it doesn't have to take hours to get ready in the morning to still feel good and look more polished and put together. And especially if you are the face of your brand, you do want to think about how you're showing up and representing your company too.
Absolutely. Okay, you're motivating me a little bit more. I like this. But I have two sisters. I have actually three sisters, but two especially are very stylish. And every time I show up to hang out with them, I'm like, I should care more. But it's like one of those things like, should I? Shouldn't I? Like, especially because I'm more of like an athleisure girl, and yet I'm also a professional. So there is that, always trying to find out that balance. Who am I? Am I this or am I this? Those different hats. So I'm sure listeners have those same questions. How do you manage that? Those hats that they wear?
Yes, I think the key is really dialing in your signature style. And you just gave a perfect example. When you show up with your sisters, maybe you're not going to look exactly like they do in terms of your style, but it's feeling your best in your own style. And so you might have a more effortless, kind of carefree style, but that doesn't mean that you need to look sloppy either. So it's just doing the best within your own wheelhouse and not trying to force yourself to show up looking like other people do, or even keeping up with trends necessarily, but being really clear on who you are, what works best for your personal preferences, for your lifestyle, what makes you feel good when you go to get dressed. I'm all about having a wardrobe that does bring you a little bit more joy and is easy to mix and match. And so getting dressed doesn't have to feel like a daunting chore, but something you can actually enjoy. And then just really leaning fully into the low maintenance kind of aspects that you really do enjoy. And that's different for every person. So it's finding the right combination for you. And I will say I do have a free 5-minute personal style quiz that will give you a ton of insight and help you start to flesh out what that could look like for you.
I actually was going to mention that. I went and took that, and
Oh,
I'm trying to remember the different ones that I was. I think it was 73%.
I would bet any amount of money your first one was natural, which is that
Probably
effortless,
that you know
kind of
that.
low maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's in most people's top 3 results nowadays because we want life to be effortless. So everyone's really leaning more into the athleisure, and it just makes sense for a lot of
Yeah.
us, especially when you're working from home and you do want to be comfortable.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm all about, if it doesn't feel good, then I do not want to have it on my body. But yeah,
Yes.
and then it was 13% classic and 13% feminine, which kind of surprised me because I've always been a little more of a tomboy, I think. But I was like, oh, maybe it's changing a little bit. I don't know if it does change.
It could. I will say too, one caveat is sometimes the third result that you get, if your answers were tied with another one, it might just default to that one because it's first on the list. So we can check
Okay.
that and see if it truly is feminine. But also, you've got to think about bringing those 3 elements together in your own unique combination. So you might not be feminine in a girly girl sense of like ruffles and bows and pretty pink pastels. You might be feminine more in that you like soft touchable hairstyles or a light dewy makeup application or just some dainty jewelry, things like that. It might not be the what you would think of as an all out feminine style. So it's finding the right balance for you.
And I will say for that quiz, if you want to take that quiz, that is in the show notes. So they can go ahead and take that. And that was really helpful. What about those of us that are stuck? Like, I've noticed the shift. I was also born in the 80s. I've noticed that I didn't really have to worry too much about style for a while. And then all of a sudden, so I have a 17-year-old daughter. All of a sudden, I was noticing that I was not as stylish as I once was, where now it's becoming more obvious. And I'm like, wait a second, am I becoming that frumpy mom that I didn't ever think would happen? And so I'm starting to have to readjust some of my wardrobe, or not that I have to, but I feel like a little outdated suddenly where I never felt that before. What do you say to clients that speak to that?
Yeah. My heart goes out to anyone who has teenage kids because in my experience, not personally, because my son's only 6 years old, but working with clients who have teenage kids, they're very transparent in their thoughts about style and what you're wearing. I don't know if your kids are brutally honest with you
Yeah.
about your fashion choices. That's maybe what I'm picking up on. And I do see that a lot with my own clients. But you've got to keep in mind, trends are moving faster and faster than ever before, especially because all the kids are on TikTok now. And it's like things are just flying so fast. And if you and I are not really immersed in the social media world, we might feel like we're missing some of that. And I pay attention to broader fashion trends and street style and runway shows and things like that, but I don't know what's happening in TikTok style. I feel like that's a whole other beast and it is a hard thing to keep up with. I think the most important thing is when you are really grounded in your signature style, it helps you to filter out all of that noise, again, of what people are saying maybe that you should be wearing. And I see this a lot with my clients because I work with tons of women who are in their 40s and that kind of thing. And it's you don't want to be dressing like you're in your teens or 20s in this season of life. What I have experienced is most women want to really elevate their style and have a little bit more mature look. And of course, not feeling frumpy or outdated, but you may not want to be following the same trends that your kids are following because there is a difference. And you don't want to try so hard. Again, like we're talking about, there's a fine line with everything. It's keeping up with what's current, but only picking and choosing the things that really resonate for you and your personal style. Because you don't want to be chasing trends. You don't want to waste money on pieces that you're not going to want to wear longer than a couple of weeks, right? Maybe one small trend for the season just to feel updated. And on my podcast, I do share about trends and I try to help women navigate which ones are going to work best for them. But you want to keep a good head on your shoulders when it comes to trends and not try too hard to chase them down.
I'm so glad you speak to that because that's one thing I hate. I don't like to invest time, energy, money, any of the things into something that's short-lived. And I also don't want to massively regret my family photos in 5 years. Like, what was I doing?
Exactly. That's the thing. I say that all the time. You've got to think if you're looking at photos of yourself 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, are you going to feel like I was really owning my style and what works for me and bringing out my best? Or what was I thinking? Why was I wearing that? Just because everybody told me that was the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you did mention this a couple times and you mentioned it on your podcast as well. color. Like that is something I think most listeners are like, I have a general idea what looks good on me. What would you recommend for them if we're just clueless and really don't know much about style?
Yeah, I do think that color can be one of the biggest needle movers in your wardrobe and confidence, and wearing your best colors has the power to either make you really look more youthful and radiant and vibrant, or it can make you look ill some days. Like we all know those colors that we put on and we're like, oh, I just feel like I look sick in this one. And so to your point, I think most of us have a pretty good innate sense of what works well for us. I would say maybe number one, just beware. There's a lot of color analysis has been really trending for the last maybe year or two. And there are a lot of AI options and color quizzes and things like that. And I just would warn people to be careful going too far down that road because a lot of the information is not really going to be necessarily personalized for you. I've dabbled in that just to see what's going on. And it's like some of the colors work for me, and then some of the colors do not work for me at all. So don't take anything like that as gospel truth. You really want to think more about infusing your personal coloring and thinking about your skin tone and whether you look best in warm, neutral, or cool colors. And also keeping in mind your personality and your preferences too. I think sometimes with the color analysis systems, they can miss that essential component. And so think about whether you feel the most confident in vibrant, happy, bold colors, or whether you are someone who feels your best in quieter neutrals and more subdued tones. And also think about what you hear the most compliments on. If there's colors that you wear and people are always like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. That's just something to take note of and maybe bring more of that into your wardrobe. But when you do know your best colors, it can really make it a lot easier to mix and match your wardrobe and shop with greater confidence. So it is definitely a service worth investing in and getting an expert's help with if that's something that you feel like I really just don't even know where to start. I do
Yeah.
think it's a great return on your investment to get some clarity around that.
Yeah. I feel like I need you to have a color quiz for me too.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's really sometimes hard for people to discern what their skin tone type is. And so, as accurate as the answers can be, depend on how accurate your responses are. You know what I mean? So, the
Well,
quizzes
that's
are tough because it's going to require you to make a lot of those decisions versus a trained color specialist being able to guide you in that. And so, sometimes it's like having a quiz for therapy. It's you could
right.
get some basic information, but are you going to get all the same insights as you would talking it through with a trusted expert? So some things I think are better to actually just bring in an eye and also trust yourself and your intuition that you do at the end of the day know what looks good on you and what you feel
Right.
confident in.
Yeah, I guess there are some things I know for sure. For example, I'm an olive skin tone, so some colors I put on, I look like an alien, especially standing next to my husband who has more of this pink coloring. So yeah, I have to be careful.
Yeah, and I say too, no matter what information you get from anyone, I've worked with a lot of clients who've had other color analyses in the past, and they're like, I was told that I can't wear this color, but I love this color, or I always get compliments when I wear this color. And so sometimes it's okay, you've also got to lean more into your own instincts a little bit when you're getting dressed, and don't let someone sway you too far from the things that really do make you feel good.
Yeah, I love that you're speaking to many of us parents that are stuck in this rut right now. But what's one simple thing that we can do to develop our style that can help us grow in that confidence that doesn't feel really overwhelming if we want to start today?
Yeah. I think it goes back to what we've been really saying from the beginning of our conversation that it's really just about taking a little bit of time to think about it. Because again, what you feel good in when you leave the house and what works for you. And if you take 5 minutes to do my personal style quiz or just start looking around on Pinterest for outfit ideas that inspire you, or taking 5 extra minutes in the morning to style your hair and makeup, like, just a little bit of time can really go a long way, and it's, again, having that intentionality to not just impulse shop what you think is trending right now or what you saw somebody else wearing, and so you're just gonna carbon copy it and try to make it work for you. It's taking a few minutes to really think about how you wanna look and show up when you get dressed, and then just do the best with what you have to recreate outfits that you're seeing online in ways that work for you. And so again, I know I'm throwing like lots of little tips out there, but it's really just taking a few minutes at the start of your day to think about getting dressed and how you want to show up. Because I know for a lot of us as busy moms and working women, it's like we put ourselves last. So just making yourself a little bit more of a priority in your day and realizing that the way you show up really does impact those around you, whether it's inspiring your kids to show up at their best for whatever it is that they're doing, or if it's motivating your client, it really does make a big difference. And also when you're putting that time into yourself, it allows you to focus out and be more present with others. I always say that having confidence is a selfless act because it gets you out of your head and worried about how others are thinking about you, or if you don't feel comfortable in your clothing, or if you're feeling a little disheveled for the day, you might get hung up on that. Versus when you feel comfortable in what you're wearing, when you're confident in your own skin, it enables you to really take that time and focus out on others. So it's worth a little bit of time to pour into yourself to be able to give a lot more time and attention to the other people in your life.
I appreciate you speaking to that. And then also, what about on the other side? So maybe not frumpy parents that are in this rut, but what about, say, my 17-year-old daughter? Maybe she's getting to the other side where she's caring a little too much about fashion, putting too much energy and effort and thought into her appearance. What would you say to that end of the spectrum?
Yeah. I think, again, it comes back to awareness and thinking about, like I said before, how much time are you investing getting ready in the morning? Maybe you need to start setting a timer for yourself. If you're spending an hour or 2 hours really focused on getting the perfect makeup application, and if you're spending too much money at Sephora or on your wardrobe for the month and you're starting to go into debt, those things are big red flags that it's becoming too much of an idol or a wrong priority for you in your life. So you've got to think about your family's goals and what your goals are and what is most important to you, and make sure that the way that you're investing your time, your finances, and your attention is really lining up with that. So maybe it's starting to scale back a little bit. I'm all about being intentional with your shopping. So not spending too much money on your clothing, but really looking practically at what do I have for this season? What are my top needs that are actually going to make it easier for me to get dressed quickly, efficiently, and confidently? And then shopping for those things in a way that lines up with the budget that you have for the season. So it's all about wardrobe planning and being really thoughtful and intentional about it. Then you can just go about your day and not spend all your time thinking about clothes and getting dressed because you have what you need and you can call it a day.
That is wonderful that you speak to that. And also, I love how you said, so it's not an idol and being more intentional,
Mhm.
thinking about your goals. And that kind of leads me into another quick question I had for you. When I think about style, when I think about all those things, it just feels so big and I just don't want to deal with that. I just want to avoid it. What is a realistic amount to freshen up your wardrobe so you're not stuck in like the 80s?
Yeah. Do you mean time or budget wise?
A bit of both. But like how often a year is it? I don't even know how to put that into a question. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I'm completely following you and I have an answer for you. So I think the first time that you really work to revamp your wardrobe, it's going to take a little bit more effort and then you'll be able to go into a more of a maintenance cycle. The way that I work with my clients, I have a 90-day program. So it's about 3 months and it doesn't take up all of your time. It's just a couple of hours a week, but we work through all the steps of dialing in your signature style, learning what flatters your figure, discovering your best colors, like we talked about, and then doing some intentional auditing and planning for what you want and need. And then we do some shopping and styling based on the budget that you have. And so if you can follow those steps for yourself, whether you want to team up with me or if you just want to really go through it on your own. I have tons of podcast episodes that would help you get started for free. But just following those steps to really figure out your wardrobe from the get go. And then what I recommend is just maybe 2 or 3 times a year. It also depends on where you live because some people live in places like Florida that the weather doesn't change that much. And you could maybe
Right.
just touch base on your wardrobe every 6 months or a year and just make sure that things are still working and swap out pieces that either don't fit or that are showing their and maybe replaced with a few things. We have distinct seasons. So you might want to just do a quick check at the start of each new season, whether it's spring, summer, and you can batch that together or fall, winter. But the more you just do a quick check throughout the year, the better you'll be able to stay feeling current and making sure that your wardrobe aligns with what you have on your actual calendar and that you never have to struggle with, I have a closet full of clothes and nothing to wear. That is like the worst feeling. We just want to be able to quickly grab what we need and get ready and go. So I hope that answers your question. And in terms of budget, I think you can make it work with whatever you have. Even if you have no money to shop right now and you just need to work with your existing wardrobe, it could be taking some time to research better ways to wear your pieces and just creating new outfits with what you have. Sometimes women forget that they have pieces in their wardrobe, and as they're going through the closet audit process, oh, I have this great thing I haven't even worn in a year or 2 years or whatever. Or it might just be taking some of the pieces that you love and going to Pinterest and saying, like, how to wear this piece in spring 2025. And it will give you tons of ideas, and you can just start making new outfits with what you already have. So you really don't have to spend a lot of money to refresh your wardrobe. It might just be remixing your pieces in new and interesting ways.
I do love that, where it doesn't have to be so overwhelming and big. And notice at the end of a season, I try to figure out like what I've worn and if I should hang on to it or not. And I really seem to wear like 20% of the things and mostly just the comfortable things. But yeah, I have noticed now that I'm not growing anymore, I've been the same size for a very long time in most of our pictures for the last 10 years. And now it's been in so many years of pictures. Maybe I don't just get rid of something when it's worn or doesn't fit anymore, but maybe it's okay to let go of something because it's been in my life for so long. But I don't know if you speak to that at all.
Or you might just want to find an updated version of that piece. But I think don't fix what's not broken. So if there's something about that piece that you really love, the best thing you can do is pinpoint what it is. What are the qualities in that piece that make you feel great, that it makes it your go-to for those photos and to wear all the time? Look at the 20% of your wardrobe that you're wearing. This is one of the steps in my signature style framework that follows my style quiz. Look at the pieces that you wear the most often, your top 10 go-to items. What is it that makes you so excited to put them on all the time? Even if they're not your dream pieces, we all have those things that we love to wear more than other things. So pinpoint those qualities and then try to bring more of that into your wardrobe in other things. So do more of what's already working for you. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, that is a great idea. So many good ideas, simple things that I can do. I'm feeling more motivated to maybe not do half of my gym clothes, half of my professional every day, maybe spicing up my wardrobe a little bit, doing my hair a little more. I love all those things. And just in closing, because maybe some of the listeners are like, okay, why are we talking about style and those things on this mental health and wellness podcast? But as you spoke to, it's so much about building confidence and looking at it a different way for those of us that are stuck in a rut, which is fulfillment therapy is all about, like really elevating our lives. And that can be in all sorts of domains. But maybe speaking to that a little bit, like how you personally, I love hearing stories, got out of a rut and how you've created more fulfillment in your life.
Yeah. I think to connect this back to style, especially again, sorry to keep talking about it from a woman's perspective, but that's where I have the most experience. I think for women, when we're not feeling like ourselves, when we're in those ruts, it can be really easy to withdraw and isolate ourselves from people and maybe not want to step out into social situations. I've had women in my community email me and say, I didn't go to this family event because I didn't have anything to wear. And that just breaks my heart that this really happens when we don't feel like we can put our best foot forward or we don't have anything to wear. It's we don't even want to go to stuff. And so you've got to think about how this really can impact all of your relationships and your experiences in life. It can be so hard to make friends as an adult and to grow our businesses and all of those things. And if you can just take a little bit of time to feel more fulfilled and confident in your style and your appearance. It sounds really superficial at a surface level, but when you think about the ripple effect that it has on all of the different pieces of your life, you realize how important it truly is to just put a little bit of thought and time into that. Again, not making it an idol, but just having some awareness about that. And for me, I think the thing that does bring me the most fulfillment in my life for a while, I thought it was my business, and my business was really my idol. I love what I do, and I always want to put time into it. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that, especially as you're getting things up and running. And when I transitioned my business online, it was like starting all over. And so it took a ton of time to get it up and running. And it was exhausting, and I totally burnt myself out, and I sacrificed a lot of sleep and a lot of time with my family. And so it took me a while to realize that was not sustainable, and I needed to let go of my perfectionism and need to control everything and bring in a team and some help. And So now I feel like the most fulfilling thing is feeling confident in who I am and my business and being able to really pour so much more attention into my relationships, whether it's with my family, friends, my faith, my relationship with God, and really prioritizing that in such a bigger way. And of course, being able to have time and energy to connect with my clients more deeply. And so for me, it all comes back to those relationships and how we're showing up for others and just being the best that we possibly can as a wife, a mom, a business owner, all of the different components.
I love how you're able to find that balance. It's hard to keep that balance, right? We're always
Oh, yeah.
fluctuating a little bit for sure. But I hear you say like you got to this point where your business was more of your idol, spending maybe too much time and energy and attention there, but learning to let go a little bit more, course correct, really focus on what matters most, which is your family, your faith, those types of things. You love your business, but not letting anything get so big that you're missing that bigger picture. And your confidence is growing as you do these other things, like you focus on style and all of that, but remembering the big picture in the midst of all of that. Is that right?
Absolutely. And it's hard when you've done things a certain way for so long. It's hard to break out of those patterns. And even for me, sometimes I'll just be working on a project and I'm like, wait, why am I still up? It's after midnight. I need to go to bed. And you kind of default to those old ways. So I definitely have not perfected this, but I feel so much more balanced in a larger sense. And like my priorities are aligned with where I want them to be. Like you keep saying, making sure that we're not going too far down the rabbit hole in one area of our lives. And I love that your focus is broad on overall fulfillment and making sure that we are aligning our time with our goals and our priorities for ourselves personally and also for our families. So I think that's incredibly important. And I love the work that you do to make that happen for your clients too.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. And thank you for speaking to something that I have very little knowledge on because I will not be able to help listeners with this and motivating us. You spoke to this a little bit before. I know your podcast, you talk about this, but it's okay to invest in yourself. It's okay to take care of yourself and to spend some time and effort on you. It's so hard to do as parents, but I
Yeah.
appreciate that reminder.
It's one of those necessary evils. Unfortunately, we have to get dressed every day. So you might as well feel your best while you do it. And I'd rather see you invest money in clothes that you really love and that are going to make you feel good than running out and frantically buying something random just so that you have something to get dressed for a party or an occasion or for life. So it's
Right.
less of the impulse shopping and more of the intentional shopping is my goal.
Oh, very well said. Beautiful. That impulse buying never works out well. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And where can we find you?
Yeah, it was my pleasure. You can find me at Her Style Podcast. You can get tons of additional free tips right over there. I'm not really on social media, so I won't even bother saying that one, but I do have a Facebook community, which you can find at herstylellc.com/community. And you can hang out with us over there, hear about what we have going on. And I share tons of free content in that group as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we appreciate what you had to offer.
Yeah, it was great being with you.
Hey, friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.